The beginning after the end. A monarch kicks the bucket and gets reincarnated as a baby in the past. But there's a catch. This time, he's born into a commoner family. Determined to relive his life with the wisdom and power of a ruler, he's armed with memories from his previous life. But it's not easy to blend in when you're a king trapped inside a baby's body. With his future in the balance, this tiny tot must navigate his way through the trials and tribulations of childhood, armed only with a regal demeanor and a wealth of knowledge from his past life. Will he succeed in his quest to reclaim his throne, or will he be stuck in the sandbox forever? Let's find out. Our story starts with a modern-day king on his deathbed, watching his life flash before his eyes. In a moment of philosophical pondering, he wonders if he'll go down in history as a ruthless tyrant or a lovable despot. As he takes his final breath, he's still clueless about how he met his maker. Was it the poisoned porridge or the spiked throne? Suddenly, he's caught in a vortex of light and sound, and he hears a disembodied voice saying, "Congratulations, sir and madam, it's a bouncing baby boy." Wait, what? Our dear king is back, but not as he imagined. As a newborn baby, he'll have to start from scratch. But at least he has a whole new kingdom to conquer, the playpen. As our king-turned baby gazes up at his new parents with his big old baby eyes, he can't help but feel a twinge of disappointment. He was expecting to be reborn into a royal family, not these average Joes. But hey, beggars can't be choosers, right? As his new mom and dad gush over his tiny toes and chubby cheeks, our baby monarch realizes that he still has his old memories and intelligence. But let's just say, listening to his parents try to decode his baby babble is like watching two monkeys trying to solve a Rubik's Cube. But there's hope yet. Our baby king takes a shine to his new mom, and with just a little bit of manipulation, he just might be able to convince her to rule the world with him. As our king takes a closer look at his new dad's face, he can't help but grimace. This guy looks like the human version of a rule book. No fun allowed. And to make matters worse, it looks like our baby monarch has been reborn into the Dark Ages or something. No smartphones? No Wi-Fi? What is this, a nightmare? At least his new mom, Alice, seems like a sweet lady with a lot of pull in the family. And his dad, Ray, might not be the sharpest tool in the shed, but he's got that whole charming thing going on for him. But let's get real here. Being a baby is tough enough without having to deal with motor skill issues. It's like playing a video game on the hardest difficulty with one hand tied behind your back. The only silver lining is that every time he ventures out with Alice, he gets a crash course on how to navigate this new world. And who knows, with enough practice, he might even be able to sneak in a few royal decrees here and there. As Art takes his first crawling steps, he reflects on his past life as a king and wonders if his crawling skills would have come in handy during any of his battles. He's proud of his achievement nonetheless, and can't wait to show off his new talent to his parents, Ray and Alice. When he comes across a mirror, he can't help but admire himself and his good looks, feeling sorry for all the girls who will inevitably fall for him. Alice is enamored with her little Art and can't resist snuggling him in bed, even though he's now a crawling machine. Young Art waits until Alice leaves the room, and the moment she does, he springs into action. With a glint in his eyes and a mischievous grin on his face, he quickly, but quietly, crawls out of bed and makes his way to the study room. He knows he only has a limited time before Alice comes back to check on him, but he's determined to make the most of it. As he crawls, he can feel a sense of excitement and anticipation building inside of him, like he's on a secret mission. And when he finally reaches the study room, he can't help but let out a triumphant "Ha!" before settling in to explore. He makes an effort to learn about the new world, and learns that the continent Dicathan, where he was born, is divided into three major kingdoms: Eleanor, the elven kingdom deep in the forest; Darv, the vast underground kingdom and home of the dwarves; and Sapin, the most populated region, the human kingdom. As he delves deeper into the new world, he comes to the realization that the monarchy is simply a matter of birthright, and not a result of any accomplishments. This is quite different from his old life, where the key to success was harnessing the power of Kai, an internal life force. Now, in this world, it's all about mana, a cosmic energy that's everywhere. Despite Despite his discomfort from the dreaded diaper rash, he soldiers on with his reading. It's not easy being a diaper-wearing warrior, but someone's gotta do it. Later on, he stumbles upon two widespread methods for managing mana. The first one, called augmenting, entails mages infusing their bodies with mana to achieve incredible strength, defense, and nimbleness. On the other hand, conjuring, the second approach, lets conjurers release mana externally, giving them the power to manipulate their surroundings like a boss. Art focuses on meditating and pinpointing the mana bits scattered throughout his body, making significant headway until Alice interrupts him and he realizes with horror that he's already made a mess in his diaper. Oops. Looks like Art's mana control isn't the only thing that needs some work. Art is now a 2-year-old baby, and Alice notices young Art's interest in weapons and magic and becomes concerned that he might be too young to learn combat techniques. She decides to keep a closer eye on him and is impressed with his habit of sneaking into the study room. Meanwhile, Art observes his father's daily training, including his use of mana to lift rocks off the ground. As Rei throws the rocks back down, Art can't help but feel a little disappointed. He was expecting something exciting, like his dad's accidentally hurling a rock towards the neighbor's house. But no, just some rocks being lifted and dropped. Alice puts Art to bed, but he puts on his best puppy dog eyes and pleads with her to let him play in the study room. Alice gives in, knowing full well that Art will end up studying anyway. She watches as he eagerly reads his books, smiling at his adorable curiosity. But suddenly, a loud crash shakes the whole house. She realizes that Rei has knocked down another tree while training. As Alice leaves to deal with the situation, Art begins meditating, hoping to form his mana core. He remembers his past 2 years of hard work, carefully guiding his mana fragments toward the center of his body. Now, he's finally on his way to channel and focus all of his mana at the body's center. Meanwhile, outside the home, Art's parents are busy tackling the timber trouble when they hear a massive explosion. Reacting quickly, Rei dashes to shield Alice from the effects of the blast. Alice and Rei are in shock. They are both safe, but terrified, and their terror grows as Alice recalls she had left the young Art inside the house. Something snaps inside Rei, and he rushes towards the wrecked house. Rei is frantically searching through the debris of his demolished house, fearing the worst. Did his beloved son Art perish in the explosion? But wait, what's that he sees? It's not a lifeless body, but instead, his toddler son with a fully formed mana core at just 3 years old. And now, Art is still clueless about what's going on, but he's enjoying his newfound mana core by walking around with his eyes closed. I mean, who wouldn't? But things take a turn when Art realizes the destruction he caused with his powers. Oopsie. Months go by, and Art learns to read and write from Alice, who's clearly a saint for not losing her mind after her house got blown up. Art also starts training with his dad and gets a wooden sword for his 3rd birthday. But when Rei tries to explain the whole flow mana into your body and sword thing, Art isn't impressed. I mean, can you blame him? Rei's not exactly the intellectual type. Art's sword skills are about as impressive as a wet noodle, and Rei is having a hard time not laughing out loud as his son flails about. After a few futile attempts to strike his old man, Art realizes he needs to step up his game if he's ever going to get back to his studies in peace. With newfound determination, Art stares Rei down with a look that could cut through steel. Rei is a bit taken aback by his young son's sudden seriousness, but decides to play along. Art concentrates hard on his mana, channeling all his energy into his trusty wooden sword. With one swift motion, he splits Rei's stick in half like a karate master breaking a board. Rei is impressed. Maybe this kid's got more potential than he thought, and lets him return back to his study room. Art returns to his room and begins focusing on his mana core, believing he has a lot to do in this regard. We discover that the mana core is initially black due to the body's blood and other impurities mixing with the mana that forms the mana core. As impurities are filtered out over time, it transitions from black to red, orange, yellow, silver, and then finally white, indicating the purest mana core. Art focuses on his nerdy stuff when he hears a familiar voice, his mother Alice, inviting him to dinner. At the dinner table, his father Rei chimes in with the topic of finding a suitable mentor for Art, and so the dinner table becomes a battlefield for Alice and Rei's verbal sparring. Alice objects to the idea of sending their 4-year-old prodigy off to a distant city and tells Rei to teach him himself, but Rei is afraid of holding Art back and suggests finding getting an expert mentor instead. They continue to argue until Ray suddenly asks Art for his opinion. As they both turn to look at him, Art suggests that they all move to the city and live together. They both burst out laughing at the ridiculousness of the idea, but then realize that it's actually a genius solution. Art returns to his study, but his peace is short-lived when Alice barges in and snatches his book away, informing him that they're leaving for Zyra City first thing in the morning because of some old friends. Art does not object and instead rejoices because he will have a better opportunity to learn about his new world once he travels and moves to the big city. He departs with his parents and meets their friends, Adam the Augmentor, Angela the Conjurer Mage, Durden the other Conjurer, Helen the Augmentor Archer, and another shy girl who keeps her distance. After setting out on their 3-week journey, the group of travelers find themselves facing numerous dangerous animals along the way. One night, as they're setting up camp, Adam becomes curious about Art's impressive mana core and decides to challenge the young prodigy to a friendly sparring match. Art tries to communicate through gestures that he's not interested, but it's no use. Ray permits the duel, and Art reluctantly prepares to face off against the much larger and more experienced Adam. With a determined look on his face, Art channels his mana and charges towards his opponent. But despite his best efforts, Art's attacks keep missing due to his immature body. Meanwhile, Adam swings his spear at Art, who miraculously ducks under it. Art shows off his mana skills and manages to give Adam a run for his money, or in this case, his mana, but ultimately collides with Adam in a close-range, mana-charged attack that sends both of them stumbling backwards. Everyone is amazed by Art's incredible agility, but none of them can quite figure out how he did it.